Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto formed a Jinchuuriki Alliance. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. I'm okay. Gaara replied quickly. Breathing a sigh of relief, Naruto nodded at the other ninja in the room in reassurance. But I need to inform you all of something, he reported. Leaning on the wall behind him, Naruto narrowed his eyes. Go on. Orochimaru sent out the signal, the Shikaku Jinchuriki said gravely. The invasion is going to occur in 1 minute. Naruto let out a breath he didn't know he was holding as he shut his eyes and inhaled again. It was a couple of seconds before he exhaled again. What happened? Sasuke questioned. Naruto opened his eyes slowly and turned to look at Fu, who was in the same state as he was. Fu, count down from 60. Fu's eyes hardened and she nodded. 60, 59, 58, 57. Naruto turned around to look at Sasuke and Akihiko. Kaoru and Haru had entered the room just before Akihiko was going to be called away and so were present. Orochimaru has called the invasion. It will begin when Fu stops counting. We need to be ready. 53, 52, 51, 50. Fu continued, a hand in her ninja pouch, making sure she had equipment. Akihiko. Fu. What's the holdup? Genma walked towards them and asked with curiosity and irritance on his face. We're not going to the match. Akihiko told him. 47, 46, 45. What? Why? Genma furrowed his brows. Naruto snapped his head upwards towards the proctor and stared at him. In exactly 42 seconds, there will be a full-scale invasion on Konoha from Suna and Oto. The match doesn't matter. It took a second for the sentence that Naruto had just said to register into Genma's brain. He raised his eyebrows and then narrowed his eyes. Are you fucking with me? The blonde-haired Jinchuriki shook his head, no. 37, 36, 35, 34. Fu tapped Naruto and widened her eyes in a gesture. Naruto bit his lip and turned to the others. We have no time. He said. Pack your shit, we're going. He stopped and then looked at Fu and Akihiko. Go to the arena. What? Why? Akihiko snapped. We can't let Orochimaru know that we know that something is up. Continue as normal, but be aware that it will occur in. He looked at Fu, minus 30 seconds. Sasuke, Haru, Kaoru, let's go. Fu grabbed Akihiko's sleeve as he was about to protest and simply shook her head as she continued counting. Picking up her pouch, she left the room, following Genma as he made a summon to tell other jonin of the invasion and start the next match. Akihiko stared at Fu's retreating back and exhaled raggedly, jogging to catch up with her and cracked his hands in preparation. They continued walking into the arena and Genma was already standing in the middle. He looked around in worry and took a deep breath. Akihiko from Kiri, he motioned to the boy who entered the arena. Once the mint-haired girl also entered, he continued. Fu from Taka. Looking up into the audience, knowingly thinking about the amount of unknown ninja amongst them, he spoke. The second match. 20, 19, Fu looked up, 18, 17, 16. All the Jinchuriki heard Fu's counting. Han and I are in the village, there are bound to be some enemy ninja ready to attack civilians. Roshi's rough voice spoke through their mental connection. Right, Yugito said, the rest of us are still in the arena. I see many ninja who are getting prepared to fight. I'm assuming the most of the enemy ninja are here, aiding Orochimaru and dealing with the higher level ninja. Sasuke has notified Sakura and Akane, as well as Moka and Miharu. The proctor, Genma, also knows. Naruto's voice resonated through the link and all of them nodded. Temari, Kankuro and I are also ready, so is my sensei, Baki. Gaara reported. 10, 9, 8. Shit, okay, Yugito and B are still with me, and so is Yagura. We're with the Hokage, A and Orochimaru in disguise. There was a bit of silence, until Yagura spoke in a calm voice. Naruto. The blonde boy, who was standing with Sasuke and the two Kiri members, was amongst the audience. He blinked, yes. You're our leader, Naruto. Yagura said. He then chuckled, what do we do? Tell us, what do we do? Suddenly, Naruto felt something that he had only felt once before. An uncontrollable amount of power. He was in charge. He was the leader of the Jinchuriki and he called the shots. He grinned. 6, 5. Okay, protect the areas which you are situated. Yagura, B, Utakata, Yugito, I'm counting on you for separating the Hokage and Orochimaru so the old man doesn't die. After they are separated, I want you to join the others in defeating the enemy ninja and either incapacitating them or binding them so they don't escape. If one has potential, make sure they are able to still be a ninja, we need more. Okay. The four ninja made affirmative sounds and allowed him to continue speaking. Protect the civilians. Foof, I want you and your team to take all the civilians outside, the arena will become a war zone. Tell Akane and Sakura to help the medics with healing. Sasuke and the Kiri team will capture the Sound 4 and prevent them from aiding Orochimaru. The rest of you. The sound of the countdown lowering made adrenaline rush through Naruto's veins. He felt like he was high on drugs, his body was searing to be active and start defeating all of his enemies. He would protect them, he would protect his village and his friends. 3, 2, 1. Naruto's eyes flashed red for a second and he felt the Kyuubi's chakra being ready to be used. With a curl of his lips, he grinned and lifted his hands into his most favorite hand sign. Let's go wild. The sound of the countdown lowering made adrenaline rush through Naruto's veins. He felt like he was high on drugs, his body was searing to be active and start defeating all of his enemies. He would protect them, he would protect his village and his friends. 3, 2, 1. Naruto's eyes flashed red for a second and he felt the Kyuubi's chakra being ready to be used. With a curl of his lips, he grinned and lifted his hands into his most favorite hand sign. Let's go wild. It was as if every Suna and Oto ninja was counting down in their own minds, because the moment that a second passed after Fu said 1, chaos had erupted in the arena and stands. Instantly, there were multiple Konoha ninja ready to defend their town. Naruto was sure that Genma had informed some of his friends, including Kakashi, Asuma and Kurenai, as well as Anko who was obviously rearing to go. Naruto had pounced into action as Fu split up with them to go and find Mocha and Miharu, to do as Naruto told and protect the civilians and take them outside. Naruto had also noticed that Sakura, Hinata and Akane were fighting and working as a team to decapitate an Oto member. He had told Sakura and Akane to help the medics with the healing, so he was sure that they would do that after they were done with the ninja. Naruto. The said blonde Jinchuriki snapped his head to the side and punched a Suna ninja square in the face, utilizing some chakra and bursting it out when it touched the man's nose, so he had been thrown back and fell unconscious. Thanks. Naruto grinned to Sasuke and then raised an eyebrow as he snapped his fingers so that a solid stream of air bullets aimed themselves at another enemy ninja. He breathed out, Futon, Minawana no Jutsu. Wind release, snapping air bullet. He smirked as the ninja didn't even see the bullets coming. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He yelled. Suddenly, about 6 copies of the young Uzumaki were made and all scattered into different directions. It was about 30 seconds into the battle and Naruto had paused to look around him. It was absolute mayhem. It was clear that Oto and Suna and joined together was to overpower Konoha, since together they had just under the same amount of ninja than Konoha did. However, Konoha was a large village and some of the authority figures knew about the invasion, so they were prepared for the surprise attack. Naruto. 3 o'clock. The young Uzumaki Namikaze registered Sasuke's voice and leaned to the side and put all of his weight on his right foot, and promptly spun anti-clockwise and roundhouse kicked the Suna ninja. Sneering when the ninja had caught his leg and lifted a hand to snap the Jinchuriki's knee in half, Naruto exhumed some of the Kyuubi's red-hot chakra and the ninja fell down and attempted to itch the pain away. Naruto stood above him and smirked, lifting his foot and stamping on the ninja's head, not with as much force as to kill him, but enough to make him pass out. He didn't want to kill unnecessarily. Get out of your thoughts and into the battle, you fucking imbecile. Sasuke spat and fought off another ninja. Naruto grinned and laughed at Sasuke's rage, raising his hands and putting them together in a few hand signs. Fuinjutsu trap. About a 20-meter radius of ninja had been caught and their movements were restricted. For fuck's sake, Naruto! Sasuke yelled again. He was also caught in the trap. He was mid-punch with a Suna ninja and was thoroughly pissed off because none was strong enough to give him enough of a challenge. Naruto shut his eyes and reached out and felt for everyone's chakra signatures. He released the chakra threads of his allies and continued holding onto the Oto and Suna ninja's chakra threads. Sasuke smirked at the Suna ninja's terrified face over the fact that the former was free from the seal trap and the latter was still frozen. Sasuke raised his fist and blasted the man into the brick wall of the arena. Sasuke dusted his shoulder and smiled, how fun. The Hokage and Orochimaru have been separated. And Yagura and fighting against the snake right now. Yugito spat Orochimaru's name out and Naruto nodded silently and glanced at Sasuke, who was fighting off another ninja at that particular moment. What do I do? He wondered to himself. I need to protect the front lines, but I also have to beat Orochimaru into oblivion. As he thought, he let out a burst of the Kyuubi's chakra into all of the chakra threads of the people that was in his Fuinjutsu trap. They had all fallen to the ground, except for one boy who was struggling to stand, but despite that, his feet were firmly planted on the ground. Naruto quirked an eyebrow and his lips tilted upwards. Interesting. Potential, that's what this one had. He pushed more chakra into that thread and the boy then fell unconscious pretty quickly. Later on, Naruto would remember to come back for this one. Naruto felt his chakra simmering down and he groaned. He had used up about 25% of his chakra, excluding the Kyuubi's chakra, with the constant Fuinjutsu traps, so he had to control his usage. Yugito and I are fighting against the enemy ninja. I see the pink-haired girl and the redhead helping the medics. Utakata's voice rang through the mental connection. Okay, Gaara. Where are you at? Naruto questioned. Fighting some of the higher-level Suna ninja. It won't take long. Gaara spoke calmly. Roshi, Han. Protecting civilians, sending them into a safe house. Outside is chaos. Roshi said while Han grunted in agreement. Foh. With my teammates helping Roshi and Han with the civilians. Good. Naruto nodded. I want you guys to sort out the enemy ninja, tie them up and categorize them into ones with potential and ones that we don't need. Konoha can handle the ladders. Naruto, why do we need ninja with potential? Fu asked curiously. The leader of the Jinchuriki smirked. Our villages are running low on good ninja, we need them. Naruto turned to look at Sasuke who was standing over the last enemy ninja in their area. Naruto nodded and quirked his head to the side in a motion to follow him. He then stopped as realization hit him. Sasuke, the blonde tilted his head to the side, weren't you meant to help Akihiko, Kaoru and Haru? The Uchiha blinked and then furrowed his eyebrows, wait, what? Naruto's eyes widened to capture the sound for and prevent them from helping Orochimaru. Sasuke's eyes bulged and he swore, shit. Looking around, Naruto jumped onto the wall of the arena and looked for the Kiri team. Where are they? And where are the sound for? He should have known that everything was going a little too well. And that he just wasn't that lucky. He should have known, he should have known. There is a seal around A and I. We can't get out. Yagura spoke. Naruto could hear his lip being bitten. Orochimaru escaped. Naruto's hands shook, he's going after the old man. Everyone who is free, go after Orochimaru. What is it? Sasuke shouted. Come with me. Naruto yelled back and they ran towards the large box-like seal which A and Yagura were trapped in. On the way to the box, Sasuke and Naruto kept on running, only pausing to hit Futon, Daitapa, Great Breakthrough, and Katan, Gakakya no Jutsu, Great Fireball Technique, some of the other enemy ninja around them. A woman screamed and Sasuke stopped and looked behind him. A male ninja had the woman in his hands and was strangling the poor civilian. Her child was crying and biting the man's leg. The man wailed and kicked the kid away. Sasuke scowled, "Scumbag." He muttered and pushed chakra from his feet and front flipped onto the ninja's head, stood on his head for a second, and then used his other chakra-powered foot and kicked his head into the wall next to them. He dropped gently onto the ground and saw that the head had been ripped apart from his neck. The woman was cradling her child, weeping and repeating thank you, thank you. But Sasuke couldn't hear her. He was in shock and stared silently at the beheaded ninja. He felt his chest shake and he clenched his hands. He had just killed a man. He had just beheaded a man. A man who was a scumbag, but a human being regardless. Being a ninja means that you must kill. And Sasuke was fine with killing, but there are some forms of murder which just aren't right. Beheading is unnecessary, yet, before he could think about it, he did exactly that. He didn't know what to think. His memory of the dead Uchihas lying on the ground, some slashed, some ripped to pieces, some with their bodies in one corner and their heads in another, came back to the young Uchiha. Itachi had killed all of them. Itachi had killed, and now Sasuke had killed. He was no better than Itachi. No better than Itachi. Sasuke felt himself start to break down. This wasn't a good time for a mental breakdown, but he had just killed a man. Suddenly, he felt as if he was being embraced by a warm blanket with the most comforting and calming chakra he had ever felt. Breathe. A familiar voice had cleared up the red in Sasuke's vision and he shut his eyes, and then opened them slowly. You're okay. Sasuke let out a breath and turned around. The chakra vanished when Naruto let his hand fall from Sasuke's shoulder, and he smiled. I'm fine. Sasuke muttered. Let's go beat up Orochimaru. Naruto let out a laugh, good idea. Civilians. To the north side of the town. Fu's teammates, Mocha and Miharu were rounding up the civilians and pointing them towards the direction of the safe area of the town. They knew this area was safe because Han and Roshi were waiting there, after fighting off the enemy ninja in that area. Chaos. Miharu muttered. Mocha ran a hand through her silver hair as she nodded in agreement. Pure bedlam. The cries and screams of the many men, women and children were starting to settle into their minds as if they were permanently there. It was haunting. And it rang in their ears so much that they were starting to clench their teeth. Not much longer now. Fu yelled, as she held a baby in her arms and nodded to them, jumping away to go to Sakura and Akane, who were with the medics. Miharu sighed and then noticed a man struggling to stand up. He ran to help him. Gritting his teeth, he thought one thing. You can do this, Jinchuriki. If you looked at Konoha at the time of the Otogakure and Sunagakure invasion, there would only be synonyms of the word catastrophic or bedlam or madness running through your head. Orochimaru had broken free and there was a seal around A and Yagura. Not many people in Konoha knew how to destroy seals, except Jiraiya and Naruto. Sasuke, find the sound 4, and Orochimaru. But do not engage, do not even attempt to fight him. Naruto commanded. Sasuke bit his lip, how would I tell you where they are? Exhaling and letting himself think for a couple of seconds, while roundhouse kicking another Oto ninja, he combined his hands and made a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Another version of him poofed into existence and he nodded at it, then turning back to Sasuke. When you find them, destroy the Bunshin, I'll get the memories and know where to find you. After exchanging glances and nods, Naruto concentrated some chakra into his feet and created a small chasm as he leapt into the air and landed on a rooftop. Fu! He saw a glint of green and sensed the Jinchuriki instantly. Civilians are in the safe house, and some have been escorted out of the village. Han-kun and Roshi-kun are taking care of them. Fu reported back mentally as she helped a little girl off her knees and handed her to her mother. Run to the northwest part of town, there are 2 men, just yell Han and Roshi and they will come and help you, okay? She told the scared pair. Kami, bless you. The mother smiled and started to run. Naruto landed next to his green-haired friend. We've gotta get A and Yagura out. Fu exhaled sharply, follow me. Fu nodded to him and yelled after her teammates, go to the northwest. Check on them. Miharu and Mocha didn't look too great. Physically they were not injured much, but they looked exhausted. As did everyone, to be honest. Mocha grabbed Miharu's collar and Miharu held up a hand sign and disappeared in a flash. The Jinchuriki mental connection was strong, even though they were quite far from each other. Status report. Naruto thought loudly, to make sure even if everyone was distracted, they would all still hear him. The technicalities of mental connections was a strange one. Don't come after us. Yagura's voice was powerful and felt like it cut through Fu's brain. My Kiri team released us, we're going after Orochimaru now. Civilians are fine, some are getting annoying but Han is keeping them under wraps by looking scary. Roshi replied, he chuckled. I don't know why they're scared of me, is it because I'm tall? B and I are with the Sandaime. Naruto clenched his teeth. He had told Sasuke to go after Orochimaru, not knowing initially where he was. But now that Yagura and A, the 4th Raikage, were also following close behind, it would be a reunion of epic proportions. He couldn't afford for there to be a casualty in his team, or losing the Sandaime. He was special to Naruto. Alright. He paused. Wait, where's Gaara? There was silence on the line until a groan of annoyance replied, Utakata and I were busy with the sound 4. They're dead, but Orochimaru's gone. Couldn't stop him. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. But then something else crossed his mind. Oh fuck. He had told Sasuke to go after Orochimaru. But Orochimaru still probably thought that the Uchiha had the cursed seal on him, which wasn't correct. He led Sasuke right into the snake's fangs. Naruto honed in on the chakra emission of the seal that he placed on Sasuke a couple of months ago. Uzumakis were seal and tracking masters after all, so once he put in some practice, if he had some chakra residue on someone, he would be able to locate them. Meaning, he could find Sasuke. Right as he started to locate Sasuke's energy, he found himself with a rush of memories from his bunshin. He clenched his teeth. What? Fu asked him, worry in her eyes. Naruto's eyes slit and his whiskers became more pronounced as he reached into the depths of his mind and drew out Kurama's chakra. Sasuke's fighting Orochimaru. No time to lose. Fu said simply and they started running. Yagura-kun, what's your ETA? 2 minutes. Naruto knew he had made a mistake in telling Sasuke to go after the Sound 4 and Orochimaru. He could only say one thing. Hurry. Pulling out a kunai from his left pocket, Sasuke threw it at Orochimaru's long tongue, which seemed to be trying to rip him in half. Come on Naruto. He would never admit it, but he needed help. And after receiving the cursed seal, he didn't want any chance of getting it imprinted on his body again. Well Sasuke, Orochimaru had shed his female body and stood smiling at the young Uchiha. Now that you have my mark, you will come searching for power, I can give it to you. He enticed. So, I have to pretend that I still have it, okay. Sasuke thought to himself. Doubtful, this shitty seal can never control me. He retorted, in a typical, cocky Uchiha way. Orochimaru tilted his head, pity, guess I'll have to take you by force then. I had wanted you to come to me voluntarily, but you'll realize soon enough. The snake Sanin raised his hands in a jutsu and spat out liquid which burnt the very concrete they were standing on. Sasuke grit his teeth and quickly jumped upwards and threw a kunai at the wall, holding onto the thread which was connected to it. He pulled himself sharply to the right and then threw it over Orochimaru. "What do you think you can do with this silly thread?" Orochimaru cackled. Smirking, Sasuke said the words to his favorite technique. Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu. The thread caught fire and spread upwards towards Orochimaru's body. The snake had a brief look of surprise and then attempted to break the thread. Spider's thread. Almost indestructible, Sasuke said, letting go of the thread as it was already burning Orochimaru's long black hair. There came a sudden and loud crash of smoke which covered Orochimaru's location for a couple of seconds. Sasuke heard a chuckle. Good for the almost, then. Sasuke was quickly pinned to the ground with the elongated arms of the snake, and he pushed and pushed to get him off. The snake was trying to be dramatic and sauntered over to Sasuke slowly. Huh, what's this? Orochimaru's constant smile had faltered. Where is my seal? Sasuke knew he had to get out. I don't know. What you mean? It should be right there. The brief couple of seconds that it took for Orochimaru to realize that his demon-cursed seal was gone, it was already too late. The snake had been thrown into the stone wall on the left, leaving a massive crack. He slumped and he blinked multiple times to compose himself. Sasuke looked up at the black-clad ninja with the sunny blonde hair. Sasuke smirked as Naruto helped him up and dusted him off. The young blonde was in his animalistic state, a small amount of red chakra seeping through his skin, but interestingly, it wasn't poisonous or malicious. Yagura had noticed this too. When he first encountered Naruto's animalistic state, it was like a chain reaction and all of the bijou inside of the Jinchuriki started to churn and react, but this time it seemed as if Naruto had greater control over it. Turning away, Sasuke saw Yagura and the Raikage who was blowing onto his fist as if he had fired a gun. He now realized that he was saved in the nick of time, and had punched Orochimaru into oblivion. Moral of this story, never anger a Kage. Naruto scoffed, annoying snake, that seal destroyed my mindscape. Do you even know how much mental fertilizer I needed to conjure up? Kurama chuckled inside Naruto's mind. Always complaining about the mental fertilizer. Everything was alright. The enemy ninja had been thrown into interrogation. Lord knows how much fun Anko and Ibiki would have. The civilians were released from the safe houses and protected area in the northwest side of the village. Houses were destroyed, stores leveled to the ground, but none of this mattered because among the casualties that there were, it was lower than anyone could have imagined. One thing that you need to work on is your organizational skills, Kit, Kurama said to Naruto. But, you did choose the correct people to do the correct jobs. The people in the town were protected, he added, and then muttered, so, good job. Naruto smiled and shut his eyes, thanks, Kurama. Orochimaru was in solitary confinement. The amount of seals and jutsus that were placed on him were courtesy of Naruto and Jiraiya. Jiraiya especially had a grin on his face the entire time that he was sealing away Orochimaru's powers. Naruto caught him chuckling and muttering to himself, dumbass snake, you shouldn't have left if you didn't want to end up in this situation. Naruto pretended he didn't hear any of it, and let Jiraiya continue to let his stress out. After explaining to the Sandaime Hokage about what exactly transpired, and why he was suddenly grabbed by the Raikage's younger brother and bodyguard, he nodded slowly before leaning back and staring at all of the foreign ninja. The Raikage was standing next to Sarutobi Hiruzen, staring at Yagura, wondering why he was among the other 8 ninja who had to be questioned. He was also clenching his teeth and narrowing his eyes at Killer Bee and Yugito, his trusted friends and advisors, wondering what part they had to play in all of this. So, Naruto started and didn't really realize where to go with this. I guess we'll start with introductions. He exhaled and turned around, looking at the Jinchuriki behind him. Gaara usually stayed silent when talking to people that he did not know. But this time, he lifted his head and stepped forward. I'm Gaara of the Sand. The Kazekage was my father before Orochimaru disguised himself as him. I told Naruto about the invasion plans. I'm the Jinchuriki of the One Tail, Shikaku. I'm Yugito ni. She stepped forward, eyes focused on I hold the two tails, Matatabi. I knew this, but what he didn't know was that Yugito and Killer Bee were aware of each other's statuses. Yagura smiled and stepped forward, his staff making a satisfying clank noise as it hit the ground. You know me as Yagura Karatachi, the fourth Mizukage. I am also the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails, Isabu. This was news to Sarutobi and they just thought that he was a talented 19-year-old who had become Mizukage, but now was in the middle of a civil war. Roshi, I hold Son Goku. He pointed next to him, that's Han, holding Kokuo. Han nodded to the Kages. We're missing Nin. Nice to meet you. Han added. Missing Nin, now Yagura's guard, I'm Utakata. The said man adjusted his yukata and glanced over at Yagura. I'm the Jinchuriki of Saiken. Fu grinned and swung her hands behind her head. Naruto chuckled and knew that Fu did not know the meaning of the word nervous or quiet. I'm Fu. Takagakure Ninja, Jinchuriki of Chome. I'm a big fan of yours, Gigi. Narukuans told me so much. Naruto blushed when Sarutobi looked and smiled at him. Killer Bee knew it was his time to shine. He raised his hands and made gang signs, Io, Kanayaro, Bakire. Cut the shit, B. A boomed and snapped at his brother. He felt betrayed by him the most. Being left in the dark completely about something so important. It was horrible, but the Jinchuriki didn't care about A's reasons. All of the Jinchuriki glared at A, Yugito grabbed B's arm and nodded for him to go on. B found his grin again and started posing. Io, Kanayaro. Bakayaro. I know you feel annoyed, but you should feel overjoyed. I found more family, but you should feel like a dummy. I narrowed his eyes even more and prepared to hit B square in the face. But Killer Bee stopped and raised his eyebrow at A. Maybe you should have told me Yugito was like me, like I found out that the Mizukage was Mr. 3. Yagura smiled. Who really should be the one feeling betrayed? Instead, you let me feel alone and afraid. Naruto clenched his fist and stared up at A, analyzing his expressions at the admission B just gave. A lowered his fist and looked to the side, blankly. He looked up at Gigi. I'm Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, Jinchuriki of Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, who was controlled by Madara Uchiha, under the Mangekyo Sharingan. The Sandaime's eyes widened at this sentence. Madara was alive? Naruto introduced himself with the surname, Namikaze. Wait. Naruto didn't stop. I'm the son of the Yandere Hokage, the Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato. He made no falter and let Sarutobi know that he was aware of his heritage, despite it being covered up, and under no circumstances was Naruto meant to find out. My mother is the previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Kushina. And we're the tailed beasts. The sealed demons all spoke out, mostly to make an impression, but also to see the expressions on the two Kage's faces. Oh, and it was so worth it. Yagura hit his staff on the floor again, and the three male ninja, Akihiko, Kaoru and Haru opened the office door and stood waiting for their Kage. You two should cherish your Jinchurikis while they're still here. He turned around and started walking out of the door, Utakata following him. You never know how long they will remain under your rule. Yagura and Utakata walked out, Han and Roshi followed them. Fu grinned and jumped onto Han's back, holding his helmet-clad head and raising a fist. That was Sue Badass. She cheered and laughed as they exited. Gaara looked at Naruto. I'll be with Temari and Kankuro. Naruto nodded and watched the redheads retreating back. Yugito, A spoke, we'll talk about this somewhere else. They followed him out of the room and the only ones left were the Sandaime Hokage and Naruto. Ichiruzen sighed and looked down, hands clasped together. Naruto. You let me think I was alone. Naruto interrupted. I had to find Ero Sennin, who I found out was my godfather, to discover all of this out. He snapped. I had to talk to Kurama to find out who my parents were. He continued, feeling himself run hot. I have a clan. The Uzumaki clan is alive!" he yelled, slamming his hands down on Gigi's desk. A small dent was left. "You let me think that I was a monster, and didn't do anything when ninja and civilians beat the shit out of me every single day." Hiruzen lowered his head. "Naruto-kun, I'm sorry." Naruto bit the inside of his mouth and retracted his hands from the desk. "If it wasn't for me being the leader of the Jinchuuriki Alliance, you would be dead right now," he stated simply. Turning around, he started to walk out of the room. "You did treat me better than anyone else though, and I love you for that." "Thank you," Hiruzen said weakly. Naruto stopped in his tracks and turned his head to the side so that the Sandaime Hokage would be able to see his side profile and his lips move. "Yagura's right though." A smile danced on his lips. "You should cherish me while I'm still here." Hiruzen's eyes widened, "Because when I leave, I'm taking the Jinchuuriki and my team with me." Naruto stared at his hand and clenched his teeth, feeling his chakra churn and spin. He had so much chakra in general, that it had taken weeks for him to learn how to increase and decrease the volume and density of his chakra output. The young Uzumaki was great at using chakra, and chakra control in general, but there was something about learning how to do the Rasengan which confused his body. Jiraiya had taught him how to do his father's jutsu, and how to combine his wind chakra into it. The only problem was that his chakra was so heavy on the output that sometimes it exploded and fizzed out, leaving Naruto with gashes on his hand. "You'll master it soon, you've already completed the rest of the steps quickly," Jiraiya commented. "So, on to another matter." Naruto let his chakra dissipate and straightened his back. Turning to Jiraiya, he tilted his head. "What's up?" "Sarutobi-sensei told me what you said," the Sannin said simply and sighed, jerking his head to the side, motioning for Naruto to walk with him. They started to head towards the center of town, where Naruto was planning to meet Sasuke and Sakura. The rest of the Jinchuuriki had left Konoha, awaiting further instructions and plans. Yagura and Utakata had to get back into the Mizukage's office and plan the next steps of the civil war, although Naruto could have sworn Yagura mentioning something about being introduced to Mei Terumi. "I'm not going to lie to you, Ero-sennin, I still have a couple of things to do," Naruto admitted, thrusting his calloused hands into his black pant pockets. The plans for leaving the village permanently aren't going to be completed anytime soon, plus, everyone is still helping rebuild the village. And this was correct. After the Suna and Oto invasion, the casualties were minimal, but the damage done on the village was horrendous. Both Naruto and Jiraiya watched as ninja and civilians alike held logs up and walked towards half-destroyed buildings. The sound of hammering was increasing with every step they took further into the village. "But what are you going to do when you leave?" Jiraiya questioned, honestly wondering what would become of the young blonde Jinchuuriki. He would not leave him alone again. Naruto hummed, "Who knows? Help Yagura out, get stronger before the Akatsuki comes after us, find more Uzumakis." Naruto's eyes brightened. "Speaking of, do you know where Akane is?" Nodding, Jiraiya said, "She's been learning medical jutsu at the hospital with your pink-haired teammate, Sakura," Naruto quipped, noticing that in comparison to the early stages of Team 7, he would never have corrected someone who called her pink-haired somebody. Sakura had changed, and so had everyone else. "Yeah, her, they've been learning medical techniques and aiding the medics. There are still injured civilians and ninja." Naruto groaned, "There's so much to do. And tell Gigi that Sasuke, Sakura and I are heading out of the village for a little field trip." "To do what?" "Also, there's protocol, you need to request it." Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and chuckled, humored by Naruto's lack of caring when it came to protocols and the right way to do things. Naruto grinned, "It's a secret." "Naruto." The said boy was met with a massive hug which appeared from nowhere. "Whoa!" He laughed and rubbed Sakura's back and twirled her around. "Hey, idiot!" Naruto turned and saw Sasuke with crossed arms, smirking at the sight of the blonde after weeks of training for all three of them. Sakura peeled herself off Naruto and blinked questioningly, "So, where are we going?" Naruto childishly giggled, hee hee, well, Sasuke, Sakura. He pulled out a scroll from his pocket and unraveled it, laying it on the ground. Yagura helped me find this, and guess what? He grinned and pointed with one finger where exactly they were going to go. We, my lovely friends, are going to Uzushio-gakure. Sakura's jaw dropped instantly. Uzushio dash? You mean as in Uzumaki? Sasuke cut in, with raised eyebrows and a small smile. Did Akane help you with this information? Yep, the same Akane who I found out is also an Uzumaki. There must be more of us. Even though Uzushio is destroyed, there must either be some clues, or... He rolled up the scroll again and stood up. We are going to find a deserted and isolated village, where not many people know the location of. Ichen. Sasuke stood up, followed by Sakura. And I'm guessing this is one of the choices that you're thinking of? Hell yeah! They started walking and signed out of the gates, see ya Kotetsu. Izumo. He waved to the gatekeepers who were half asleep, who then jolted out of their state of limbo. Sakura tooted at them, and stay awake, you lazy fucks. You never know who could just walk into the village. They all laughed while Kotetsu and Izumo rubbed their heads in embarrassment. But, Itachi, why can't we just stop and take a break? A figure in the mist groaned and started slashing the leaves and grass from his surroundings in boredom. Plus, shouldn't we have gone after the two tails first? No. A onyx long-haired man spoke simply while they continued walking. Kisame, you know the Nibi isn't our responsibility, he retorted, the Kyuubi is. Now stop complaining. But what are we doing after we get the Kyuubi? Kisame questioned, knowing that Itachi would have all of the information, especially since Kisame never listened during the meetings. Giving that missing nin from Iwa one last chance to join the Akatsuki, Pain said his name was Deidara. Itachi replied simply, somewhat done with Kisame's questions. The large shark-like character nodded, and then... Exhaling and shutting his eyes, Itachi stated, if you ask me another question, I will kill you. Kisame rolled his eyes, no fun, let's just massacre the whole of Konoha. No. I thought joining the Akatsuki would be fun, I'm just bored. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were jumping from tree to tree and laughing as the wind hit their faces. Sakura's hair, which was now cut short, was flying from side to side and hitting her in the face, but she didn't mind. It had been so long since Team 7 had fun, no secrets, no issues, no invasions, just being teenagers for the sake of being teenagers. Uzushio-gakure was located to the east of Konoha. It took about the same distance from Konoha to the Hidden Sound village. It was hard to find, but even harder to get in, knowing that it would take either a blood seal or something involving his heritage to enter wherever they were heading to. Naruto had a kunai and some storage scrolls ready for anything that they found. Suddenly, Naruto felt a chakra spike and he skid to a halt, Sakura and Sasuke following suit. What is it? Sakura questioned, knowing that Naruto's sensory abilities were better than hers. I don't know, I don't recognize the chakra. He grimaced. Naruto hated not knowing things. A burst of chakra erupted from the left of them and they all jumped away as a tree exploded. The fuck? Naruto thought, it was so out of the blue. The body of a slender young boy fell out of the remains of the tree and the ninja raised his head. Naruto could see that this person was a similar shade of blonde, but was gripping the front of their shirt. You Akatsuki bastards! I'm not joining, yet Hiran. The feminine ninja threw a couple of kunai which the Konoha ninja easily dodged. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, excuse me? He replied incredulously. We're literally as far from Akatsuki as you could get. Naruto burst out into laughter. Now, ma'am, can I help you up? He composed himself and leapt down to the blonde figure, extending a hand. The unfamiliar ninja looked up and stared at the blonde who radiated warmth and kindness. His deep blue eyes seemed like they were never-ending whirlpools, which ended up in an abyss. Then, the ninja's eye twitched and he shouted in anger. I'm a fucking man. Naruto blinked and started to imitate a fish as Sakura attempted to hold in a laugh. Sasuke slapped a hand onto his mouth but let out a snigger. You dumb bastard, how do I look like a girlin? The blonde man hissed and pushed himself up from the floor, patting down his clothing and watched as the dust covered him. He coughed and waved it away. Naruto winced in embarrassment. I'm sorry, my bad. He rubbed the back of his head and bowed slightly in apology. My name is Naruto, and you are? The blonde man turned his head away. Deidara. He said simply. You shits should leave, the Akatsuki are crawling around here nowadays, Pursing his lips, Naruto turned to his team. Sakura shrugged and Sasuke clenched his fist. Is Itachi there? Even though Sasuke had gotten better in terms of his lust for revenge, the thought of his brother made his veins feel like they were burning. Deidara raised an eyebrow. You know him? He looked at the young black-haired boy, running his eyes up and down. Itachi, who had visited him at least twice previously, attempting to get him to join the Akatsuki, to which Deidara laughed and refused. He's a traitor. Sasuke spat. Sakura grabbed his arm and held him in place. If this had happened a few months ago, Sasuke would have ripped his hand away from Sakura, but instead now, he exhaled and attempted to calm his nerves. Naruto turned back to Deidara, studying him in silence, knowing that they didn't have much time until it became risky to be around that area. Either they had to run back to Konoha, or they could continue to use a Shiogakure, with an unknown shinobi who they didn't trust. The Uzumaki's eyes landed on Deidara's headband. You're from Iwa. Naruto said simply. Deidara smirked and tapped his forehead, tracing a thumb on top of the line across the rock symbol. Not anymore, They're condescending assholes. He shrugged, just because I like to make things go boom. When he said that, he tossed a small white ball about 10 meters away from them. Team 7 stared in confusion for a couple of seconds until there was a sudden explosion. Shit! Sakura raised her eyebrows in appreciation. Naruto shook his head. We need to get going. He turned to leave, but then, he paused. Deidara looked as if he was about 17 years old, and considering the fact that he was being chased by the Akatsuki, and was a missing nin from Yugakure, he knew that it would be a great idea for Deidara to join them. Join them? But how? He didn't trust Gigi and Konoha enough for them to not restrain Deidara and throw him into a jail until he was taken away by Iwa hunter nins. But at the same time, Deidara could have absolutely no interest in joining them, even if Naruto explained the whole situation. Yeah well, nice to meet you brats, I gotta go. Deidara made a hand sign and the Konoha ninja saw the palms of his hands open up and start chewing some more of that white material. He chucked it to the side and it morphed into different shapes, swelling up and then decreasing, and finally adjusting itself into a large white stoic bird. Naruto stared at Deidara's large white bird. Wait! I picked up some of your C1 in the wave country. He pointed in awe and burst out into laughter. Turning his head and glancing at Naruto incredulously, what, when we were fighting Zabuza? He questioned, remembering the explosion that Naruto created, so long ago. Somewhere in wave country, many months ago. Naruto looked satisfied at the explosion that just took place. Zabuza was nowhere to be seen. The explosion had created lots of smoke which was quickly disappearing. What was that? Sasuke tilted his head to the side and asked. Naruto shrugged, I don't actually know, I just saw some of the papers being dropped from the sky by a big white bird. I think there was some blonde dude riding it. I don't know. But apparently from what Kakashi-sensei told me, the explosion was C1 or something. Sasuke raised his eyebrow and chuckled, typical Naruto, picking up bombs from the ground. Because that's not strange at all. Back to the present. Deidara smirked, you appreciate my art, you're smart, He exhaled and held up a hand sign, seemingly about to leave. Naruto bit his lip, wait. He fumbled to reach into his leg pocket and threw Deidara a scroll, who caught it with ease. If you want to be a part of something bigger, and destroy the Akatsuki in the future, find the Mizukage, Yagura. Smiling up at the other blonde, you'd be a great addition to the team. Light blue eyes glinted, don't get ahead of yourself, brat. He lazily shoved the scroll into his pocket. I don't even know you kids, Well, Naruto grinned. I'm Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. Deidara knew that surname. The Yandere Hokage was the biggest enemy to Iwa, although he didn't care much since he wasn't part of Iwa. I'm the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Ah, now, that was a surprise to young missing Nin. That's Haruno Sakura, an aspiring medic Nin, and that's Uchiha Sasuke, Itachi's younger brother. Naruto introduced, pointing to each member of his team respectively. The said Konoha ninja waved and nodded. Deidara could now see the resemblance. He was irked by the fact that the guy who had been chasing him for a while was practically in front of him in the appearance of a younger version of him. But he did notice that they did not seem particularly close. Well, I'll decide another time, Deidara rolled his eyes and motioned for his bird to flap its wings and rise into the sky. Brats. Team 7 watched as their new friend, who they ran into, literally, flew away on top of his giant white bird. It was a strange sight to see, considering they had not seen many contraptions or machines that enabled the ability to fly. One side of Naruto's lips turned upwards, and he smirked. Maybe he could develop something, inspired by Deidara's bird. That would be left for another time though. He said the Akatsuki were around here somewhere. Sasuke reminded. Sakura shuddered and Naruto bit his lip, nearly hard enough to pierce the skin. Lifting his hands and forming a hand sign, Naruto was able to relax his mind and body. Kurama, are you able to trace unfamiliar and strong chakra signals, preferably S-rank, Kage level, or equivalent? He felt a low rumble of his prisoners stirring in his sleep. Mornin'. He heard Kurama growl, I can locate humans up to 100-mile radius. Naruto felt a sweat drop. How far is that? When he heard silence on the other end of his mental connection, he knew that the Kyuubi wasn't sure if 100 miles was enough or too much. He was a massive fox created from chakra. How would he know anything about mathematics? Guys, how far is Konoha from here? Naruto laughed weakly, rubbing the back of his head. Sakura narrowed her eyes in thought. We've been traveling for about 1.5 hours, so maybe 80 miles. Naruto's expression lit up. Nice one, Sakura. He laughed and relayed the information back to Kurama. Sakura and Sasuke exchanged confused glances. Look, Naruto may be intelligent and somewhat powerful now, but that did not mean that any of the educational information that he was taught in the academy was absorbed. There are 2 powerful chakra signatures heading to Konoha, about 65 miles away. Kurama noted, curling back into a ball within Naruto's mindscape, humming to the sound of the river gushing through. Grimacing, Naruto lowered his hands. We can't head back to Konoha yet, the Akatsuki are going towards it, probably to find Orochimaru. He paused after a thought, or me. I don't suppose you could find out if one of them is my brother. Sasuke crossed his arms haughtily. Naruto chuckled, sadly not, Sasuke-chan. The said Uchiha scowled, don't call me that. Ever. We can't call you Sasuke-chan. Sakura pouted while fluttering her large green eyes. Sasuke turned away from them and started jumping away, in direction of Yuzashio-gakure. I'll kill you if you call me that again. He huffed and left them behind. Sakura and Naruto smirked and fist bumped. It was pretty easy to distract Sasuke, if they were being honest. You must be Itachi and Kisame. Kakashi drawled, waving a single hand with another hand holding his perverted book. The blue shark-like man smirked. Hatake Kakashi, what a pleasure. Before he could complete his sentence, Itachi activated his Sharingan and allowed his genjutsu to absorb Kisame entirely. Kisame himself fell limp and Kakashi ran over in time to hold him up, and lay him down gently enough so that he didn't get injured. He didn't do this out of kindness, but out of strategy. If Kisame got injured, he would wonder how it happened as it wasn't within his recollection. As Kakashi lay him down, he stood up and nodded to the older Uchiha brother, the one who was thought to be a traitor and a mass murderer of his own clan. Nice to see you, Itachi-kun. He smiled under his mask. How's all the spying coming along? Itachi dropped his facade and sighed. It was the first time in a long time that he was able to show emotion. Exhausting. So, does my foolish little brother still think of me as a mass-murdering psychopath who went rogue for no reason? Kakashi laughed. Yep. Sandaime-sama hasn't told him yet. I'm not sure if he ever will, to be honest. The older Uchiha shook his head, disappointed. It wasn't common knowledge. In fact, only the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Danzo, and the other two elders, knew that Itachi massacred the whole of the Uchiha clan in order to prevent a coup d'état, a rebellion, basically, and then went rogue and joined the Akatsuki, to relay information in order to keep Konoha in the know, and to prevent any awful happenings. Uchiha Itachi was a true hero, who sacrificed his life and destroyed his name for Sasuke and Konoha. Yet, Sasuke was not told, even after all of these years, the true reason that his family was killed. Where is Jiraiya-sama? Itachi asked. Kakashi hummed, starting to walk to the Hokage tower, waiting until after Itachi picked Kisame up and transformed himself into a generic ninja in order to conceal his identity. Interrogating Orochimaru, still. He shrugged. I think after that, the snake is all yours. The Akatsuki wanted him, didn't they? Indeed, Itachi nodded. I was also ordered to come and collect the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He revealed. Naruto. He's out of the village with Sasuke and Sakura, so that's a good reason as to why you didn't find them. Walking silently, the two ninja didn't realize that civilians were staring at the two of them in complete shock and awe. The masked Jonin and the concealed Akatsuki member were making their way down the street while Itachi was holding a massive shark-like humanoid over his shoulder like a rag doll. It looks different. Itachi stated simply. Bobbing his head up and down, Kakashi replied with just as many words. Invasion destroyed the town. Calmly smiling at the civilians and ninja working together, while they squabbled about what the easiest way to reconstruct a house was, Itachi knew that things had subtly changed. They finally reached the Hokage tower and Itachi entered, sitting Kisame down, who was staring, eyes completely open, blankly, at the wall. He was still in the genjutsu, and as one of the strongest genjutsu masters in the world, Itachi knew that he wouldn't be able to break out of it anytime soon. The Sandaime Hokage smiled kindly and leaned forward, lacing his fingers together. Welcome back, Itachi. Itachi bowed. Now, tell me what's new. Team 7 were stood around what seemed to be the entrance of the Uzushiogakure, the village hidden in whirlpools. It was the shape of a gate, but the broken and worn-down rocks were intertwined with weeds and ivy. They stood staring at the arch-shaped gate and Naruto pondered what to do in order to enter. Blood? Sakura quipped, remembering that Naruto had to unlock a blood seal when opening the hideout within Hashirama Senju's statue. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. I don't think so. Since it's the Uzumaki village, but not only Uzumakis lived there, it shouldn't be limited to Uzumaki blood. However, chakra can be adapted in small ways, so maybe your chakra would open it up. Sighing, Naruto rubbed his temples. It wasn't closed off when the village was still active, it only got closed by the remaining Uzumakis when the village was attacked. Why was it attacked, anyway? Sakura tilted her head and asked. Too powerful. Naruto answered simply. He looked at Sakura and explained further. Let's just say, the Uchiha were nearly wiped out by one of their own, and it took multiple nations to do the same to the Uzumaki. He studied Sasuke's face to see his reaction. The said Uchiha's eyes dimmed and he grit his teeth and clenched his fist. Well, it was unexpected. Don't fucking insult. Sakura laughed awkwardly. Mama boys, let's not start something like this. Both of your families were massacred, let's move on. She pat their shoulders. Both Naruto and Sasuke raised their eyebrows. Naruto chuckled. That's true. He turned back to the wall. Sorry. He stepped forward, thinking back to the different methods that he could try to open the seal. I could try both. Sakura intertwined her fingers together and held the back of her head with her arms up, waiting for her teammate to find a way to enter. We might be wrong. I mean, what do we know about sealed entrances? The young Haruno and Uchiha watched as Naruto traced his thumb with his canine and bit down. He winced as the blood trickled down. He would never get used to that, to be honest. Smearing it across the dirty rock wall, he waited for a couple of minutes in silence. Nothing happened. You've probably gotten a disease now. Sasuke smirked. Shut up, Teimei. Sakura laughed, if he does get one, I'll heal it. Naruto smiled sarcastically at Sasuke, now, that's a friend, Sasuke, you need to learn from Sakura. He ruffled Sakura's hair and she slapped his hand away and sorted out her hair. Hey, she may have been less obsessed with her appearance now, but you can't ruffle a hairstyle with a headband in it. It's too delicate. Sasuke just rolled his eyes, with a smile playing on his lips. Trying the next method, Naruto held his hand up and placed it against the wall. Exhaling, he released some of his chakra straight out of his palm and stumbled backwards, nearly falling if Sasuke hadn't have caught him. The stone vibrated and rumbled, the noise startled birds high up in the trees and led them to fly off in a panic. Sakura grimaced at the noise of rock on rock friction and rubbed her ear lightly. They all watched as different sections of the rock shifted and rearranged itself to push out a circle-shaped symbol which all three of them recognized in an instant. You did it. Sasuke raised his eyebrows in surprise, then realized that it wasn't completely open. Well, nearly. Naruto ignored him and clasped his hands together in irritation. They noticed the intricate design of the Uzumaki symbol, the swirl within the circle. He felt a light bulb go off in his hand and placed his bloody thumb over it, tracing the swirl with his Uzumaki and Namikaze blood. They all practically hooped in glee when the second stage of the entrance seal had directed the whole gigantic rock to move completely and slide across the ground. As their vision was slowly filled with green grass and run-down, old buildings, Team 7's eyes slowly widened. There was silence for a couple of seconds until Sasuke snorted, "So I was right, blood seal." Sakura sighed and slapped him across the head, "Shut up and let's go in already." Naruto didn't need to be told twice. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair and let out a sigh. That's not great. Not great at all. The Toad Sage, Jiraiya, who had arrived a couple of minutes before Itachi started explaining the current situation with the Akatsuki, groaned, "Understatement of the century, sensei." Kakashi shrugged, on the brighter side, Naruto does have protection from Yagura, the Mizukage, and they made plans to leave. Itachi quirked an eyebrow, leave? Nodding, Hiruzen supported his chin on top of his intertwined hands. Indeed, that could be a positive in all of this, the Akatsuki would not know where he is. If he stayed here, they could send other members to retrieve him. What about the other Jinchuriki? Itachi shook his head, no Jinchuriki has been retrieved yet, I'm supposing that is due to Naruto's chakra hiding seals and Yagura's protection. But it's only a matter of time until they realize why they cannot be tracked or sensed. There was silence for a couple of moments until Jiraiya revealed a grin. Well, I guess that means that we're helping them leave the village, huh? At Hiruzen, Kakashi and Itachi's expressions, he waved his hand. It'll be okay, the Akatsuki won't be able to track any of the Jinchuriki, and they'll have protection. Sasuke's going with him, did we mention? Itachi's eyes widened, it was mentioned previously, yes. He faced the Sandaime Hokage, I think it's time to tell my little brother everything. Hiruzen bit the inside of his lip. He agreed that it was left for too long, but what would Sasuke do once he finds out he was lied to for so long? He exhaled, eyes wavering on Itachi, yes, I suppose you're correct. Kakashi smiled with his eyes shut, patting Itachi's back, you'll just have to stay here until they get back to the village then. All of them chuckled, imagining the sight of Sasuke being met with his older brother who killed everyone, which was morbid, but hilarious at the same time. Ah! Jiraiya blinked and stared at Itachi. What is it? Itachi questioned. Turning his face towards the motionless body of the giant S-rank Akatsuki member, Kisame Hoshigaki, he felt a sweat drop fall from his head. What are we gonna do about him? I found something. Naruto's head snapped to the side and he rushed over to Sakura's side, who was staring up at a small opening in the wall. Sliding through the gap, he turned his head and saw Sasuke following them with a curious look on his face. Through the small gap, they walked forward and realized that they were standing at the top of a flight of stairs. Sakura glanced at her two male teammates and nodded. As they started walking down the pitch-black spiral staircase, they tried extremely hard not to trip and fall. "Oi! Naruto, stop bumping into me. I can't see anything though, Sakura-chan." He mocked her with the honorific he always used to use and sometimes still used. "Ow!" A grunt was heard. "Sorry, idiot. You can't apologize and then call me an idiot, bastard. Stop bickering, you're acting like little children." Sakura snapped in exasperation. She loved them, but they were so annoying. "Sorry, Sakura," both of them said in unison. The lights had obviously broken, and the natural windows were covered by rock, showing that the staircase had fallen underground. Foundation-wise, this meant that there was a larger room underneath them, otherwise it would be completely destroyed. The fact that the stairs were still intact meant that it led somewhere. Sasuke flinched. "Ugh, stop touching my butt." Sasuke, no one's behind you." He let out a small unmanly yelp. "Oh fuck, a spider. I thought you liked insects." "I like reptiles, snakes. Not insects." "Oh Kami, thank God we aren't on a team with Shino." Sakura giggled, and then took another step and noticed it was flat and not another stair step. "We're here." The three of them positioned themselves so that they were next to each other, and Sasuke started fumbling and slapping the wall. "What are you doing?" Naruto laughed, just hearing quiet curses and the sound of Sasuke hitting the wall. "Looking." He finally hit a metal object and hummed in appreciation for his own quick thinking. He held his left hand up. "Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu. Fire style, fire breath technique." As the words left Sasuke's mouth, so did a small stream of bright orange flames, latching itself onto the bandages which were wrapped around a long stick. Sasuke had realized that there was probably a torch somewhere and found it. The room was instantly illuminated and Team 7's eyes widened. They had found a massive library with a single scroll positioned right in the center, surrounded by bookshelves and cases. The scroll in the middle was rolled up and had red markings around the top and bottom. The Uzumaki symbol was almost overwhelming with the amount of ornaments and decorations around the room. Naruto jogged towards the special-looking scroll and picked it up, biting his lip and then shrugging. Pulling another scroll from his pocket, he sealed the Uzumaki artifact in his sealing scroll and turned back to his friends. "Let's have a quick look around, then we'll head back to Konoha, sounds good?" Sakura smiled. "Yep." Sasuke just nodded and started looking through the bookshelves. It didn't take them long to collect a couple of things, throw them into sealing scrolls, and then start running back to the village after sealing the entrance once again. "We could kill him," Kakashi drawled. Itachi shot him a disapproving glare at his friend. "We aren't killing Kisame, he might be part of the Akatsuki, but he can be useful." Kakashi nodded in boredom. "He's part of the Akatsuki," he started, still nodding, "so we kill him." "We are not killing him." Hiruzen sighed. "We've been going around in circles." "Itachi, how about you keep him in a genjutsu for a bit longer, until you leave?" And then, Jiraiya tapped his chin in thought, and bet in his mind that you searched but couldn't find Naruto. "So you're leaving?" Itachi smirked and glanced back at Kakashi. "Those are reasonable options, Kakashi, yours was not." Shrugging, Kakashi snorted. "Would have been easier." The sound of running footsteps approached the Hokage's office, and Kotetsu, the gatekeeper, swung open the door. "Hokage-sama dash." He froze when he felt his eyes land on the familiar figure of the traitorous Uchiha who massacred his own clan. Oh, and then there was the limp hunk of blue in the corner. Hiruzen slammed his hands on the table. "Kotetsu. How many times have I told you to knock on the door before you enter?" He stuttered, not quite understanding what was going on. Sighing, the Hokage said, "What is it?" Hiruzen didn't have the patience to explain to Kotetsu why Itachi was here, so he snapped him out of it. "Right, Team 7 is back." Itachi's eyes widened. It wasn't that he had forgotten that he wouldn't sense Naruto, Sakura, or Sasuke entering the village due to the hidden seals on them, but he was distracted and didn't know that they would be back so soon. "Hey, Gigi," they all heard Naruto's voice drawl with a sliver of excitement in his tone. The ninja in the Hokage's office glanced at each other in slight panic because they were so not prepared for this. "You'll never guess what we found, Toda." Naruto stepped into the room and froze. He knew everyone in the room, except for two figures sporting long black coats with red clouds on them. He knew that those symbols were the symbols for the Akatsuki. And he instantly growled as he stared at them. "Naruto?" Sasuke raised his eyebrow as he saw his teammate standing at the doorway and nudged him aside so he could enter. "What's wrong?" His eyes landed on his brother. "Itachi." His brother's eyes softened and he smiled at the shocked expression that he expected to receive. "Hello, Ototo. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.